I believe we're live. There we go. What's up? What up? What up? Going to start the show in a couple minutes here. Got to give some people a chance to get in the building with the building. Braden, is that the Braden that I think it is? Let me know in the chat there if this is really you. All right, let me see who we got here. Dodgers 11. Welcome to the show. Thank you very much. Hell yeah, Braden. Love it. You know what? You're making an effort to find me, and I appreciate that. If that really is you. Dodgers 11. How we doing? What's going on? We're going to give everybody a couple minutes to get in here just to kick off the show, but I'll give you the rundown in a minute of what we're doing and plug all my podcast stuff and everything. So bear with me here. Let me write my guy Braden back real quick. Second here, try to get rid of Hey, now you get to see me on live, so you get to fool me here in a minute when I get just got home trying to find out what situation is. The Dolphins. Oh yeah. What's going on, Grandizer? Yeah, me too. I don't have anything to report on that tonight just because I'm not exactly sure, but it sounds like there's a lot of heat coming there. I wasn't going to do a ton on that tonight with the whole Brian Flores situation. I don't know all the details yet. I didn't spend enough time on that. That wasn't going to be my main focus tonight. But definitely sounds like Bill Belichick's in there. Yeah, exactly. From what I saw, what the owner was Stephen Ross was trying to pay Brian Flores for losses so they can improve their draft situation, and then he wins 8 out of their last 9. Oh, not following orders, as they say. Tough situation. So we're gonna give it about 7:32 here, and then we'll get back on. Yeah. I know, seriously, man. Yeah, he is going to sue everybody. This could be. They're saying, I was reading online a little bit. This could be like a bombshell type of moment here. Yes, I will talk about the Bucks. Don't worry, I'll give you plenty of Brady tonight. That's the main focus. But yeah, Dodgers 11. If you have any thoughts on Brady, if you guys have any thoughts on Brady, things you want me to hit, all that stuff. 8 men out big. I don't think so, but I mean, and the NFL's shitting bricks right now. They're scared probably of this lawsuit, especially if they have the receipts to prove it. That's the issue. If they got receipts and other black coaches have receipts, no bueno. So, all right, let me give you the rundown here, and then I will get into the show a little bit. If you guys have any questions or comments or takes that you want me to hit on, I will try to do my best during my rants to hit on those. And you came here to hear me talk about Flores. This is our year, Browns fans for the well, we'll see, Browns. Looks like Burrow is looking pretty good in that division, Braden. Anyways, all right, let me give you the rundown here before we start. Big topic today, obviously, is going to be talking about Brady. So we're going to talk about Tom Brady retiring. I'll give you my thoughts on him and his whole era and career. We'll talk about that mostly with the Patriots there. I don't have all the stats for him, but you guys can look up the stats if you want. But we'll talk mainly about Brady's career. And then we'll get into, I just want to recap the games over the past weekend, where everything stands now. We'll talk about the Super Bowl a little bit, but Bengals Chiefs, what went on in that game. Rams 49ers, we'll talk about that. I also have thoughts on, let's see, I have USC getting the big transfer from Oklahoma. We'll talk about that. Caleb Williams. I wanted to touch on what the Bears' new GM said, reading that robotic statement about Chicago Bears taking the North. I will give my thoughts on that. And Josh McDaniels, the former Belichick assistant, is going to be the head coach of the Raiders. Give you my thoughts on that if he's ready this time around to be the Raiders head coach. So if you guys have any thoughts on any of those topics, let me know, or other topics. I will try to get to them myself. No grandizer. I'm not going to the Super Bowl. Have you seen the average ticket prices? Good luck. No, thank you. So I'm skipping out on the Super Bowl this year, even though it's in my backyard. It would be awesome to go, but it's way, way too expensive. But I am happy the Rams are in it, so I will get to that in a little bit. But if you have any takes on anything, go ahead and drop them in the chat there. Real quick, always, I just want to remind everybody you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. That's on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. My guy Braden follows me on TikTok at Too Tall Sports Podcast. You can find me there. And I do lots of video content, all that stuff. My interviews every week. Every Thursday morning, I drop episodes on all the platforms. So Spotify, Apple, it's called Too Tall Sports Podcast. Go ahead and follow me there. Listen, I got episodes every week. So I just had one with a former minor league teammate of mine. Pretty fun. And this week with a former Army veteran who's now a corporate recruiter and all that stuff. So I got lots of different content, but everything kind of comes back to sports a little bit. So I do my best to do that. But anyways, yeah, happy to be back again for another live show. We got 2 weeks to talk about the Super Bowl. I'm not going to go too much in on the Super Bowl, but definitely excited for the matchup. But let me start with Tom Brady. So, and my buddy who's on here knows this. I have never been the biggest Tom Brady fan. I just have never thought of him as the most talented quarterback in NFL history. And most people would probably agree with me. You got guys that may have better arms like Dan Marino and John Elway, guys that were more exciting or fun-loving like Brett Favre. You got, in my opinion, the GOAT of talent. Hang on, not the GOAT of football, but the GOAT of talent is Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, just the thrower of the football. But he doesn't have the hardware to compete with Brady. Brady's the most accomplished quarterback of all time. You cannot dispute that. He has more Super Bowls than NFL franchises have Super Bowls. He's a 5-time Super Bowl MVP, 7 rings, 15 Pro Bowls, I believe. The guy is unbelievable. And he, when people say it was the Belichick way, and there is some of that, especially early on, which I'll touch on. But the system in New England was Brady. That's what it was. And he made, average offenses for the most part. He did have some talent that people aren't willing to admit all the time, and he had a lot of help on defense. Let's be real. But Brady made the average much better. And his attention to detail and his leadership and the way he ran the show in the locker room, you can't deny his production and his leadership value. He had the it factor. He was something so consistent every single year. It was almost, he kind of, I hate to put LeBron in his class, but like every year for a while, LeBron went to 8 straight finals. Brady, since, they had that little gap there, but there was a while, the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years, it's pretty much Brady and everybody else. This is a weird year that Brady's not in the Super Bowl. One of his teams is competing for it. So I will say this, for being drafted 199th overall and a 6th round pick and becoming the player that he became is very unusual. You don't usually see 6th round picks becoming the greatest player ever. And a lot of people missed on him. He had that notorious 40-yard dash that wasn't very good. His body, he didn't look like an NFL player at the combine. It's really impressive what he's done. Now, he usually took less money, which would help the Patriots sign free agents, both offensively and defensively. New England became a place, not only because of Belichick, but a place to resurrect your career as well, right? You had guys like Darrelle Revis, who was miserable with the Jets, showed up in New England. They won a Super Bowl that year. You had guys like Randy Moss, who was kind of an outcast in the league from Oakland. Randy Moss was a very iffy character. Goes to New England. They don't win the Super Bowl, but they had a nearly perfect season. And Brady went off with Moss. It's really impressive to see what Brady has done over the years, helping Belichick build these teams. He was the ultimate leader, and he demanded a lot from his teammates. He would scream and yell at his teammates on the sideline because he demanded respect and he demanded the best because he put in so much time, kind of out of that Kobe mold where he demanded so much of himself that he's going to ask his teammates to deliver the same thing. So it's hard to argue against the way he led teams, especially in New England. And then, a lot of people like to say Tampa was 7-9 before Brady got there. So, the next year he's there, they win the Super Bowl. Now, let's have some perspective here, okay? That's an all-star team in Tampa. Godwin, Evans, you bring in Antonio Brown, wacko that he is, still one of the best receivers in the league. You bring in Gronk, you bring in Leonard Fournette, all these, big-time talents. And they win a Super Bowl. So, and on defense, last year, I believe they had one of the top defenses in the league. This year, they had the second best offensive line in the league. I know Brady gets rid of the ball quickly, but let's be real. They had some all-pro, Pro Bowl linemen as well. So the team was constructed in Tampa. Brady had never had an all-star team like that in New England before. Some of the defensive players were unbelievably great during the New England Belichick years with Brady, but he had guys like Wes Welker and Julian Edelman and Chris Hogan. Random James White was a savior for him one year in the Super Bowl. It just random cast of characters that he would have to throw to. Deion Branch one year. It was just, it wasn't the best receivers that he ever had to throw to. But he always made sure everybody was where they needed to be. And you can't ask for anything more than that. Let's also remember that he played in what I like to call the AFC least, aka the AFC East, right? 20 years of pretty much total incompetence and terrible division there, right? You had Buffalo, who was basically non-existent the entire time Brady was in New England. You had the Jets, who outside of 2 random years with Mark Sanchez were awful for the most part of the whole time, right? And you had the Dolphins, who didn't do anything either. You never had a franchise quarterback come through the AFC East for those 20 years, right? Until Josh Allen got there in Buffalo. And even Ryan Tannehill, let's be real. He's doing much better now in Tennessee, but you saw him in the playoffs a couple weeks ago. So let's put that into perspective. They played in the worst division in football, and he often had a first-round bye, and he often had a home playoff games, home field throughout on their way to the Super Bowl. I believe every year they won the Super Bowl, they had a first-round bye, okay? It helps. You got to have some help. But Brady did, however, last year in Tampa have to go on the road the whole time, which was very impressive. He did get the home Super Bowl first time ever, but he did have to go on the road and beat Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. So last year, the road was a little bit tougher than normal for him. But, man, it's hard to argue with 20 years of consistency. The one random year he got hurt, Matt Castle steps in and they were 11-5. And, a lot of us people, including myself, like say, see, it's all Belichick, right? And you could argue some of the Super Bowls were Belichick in the early years. Brady did just enough. He was more of a game manager. And even a few years ago, if you remember, that Super Bowl against the LA Rams with Jared Goff, I think New England only put up 13 points, right? LA had the best offense in the league, points per game coming into the Super Bowl. The Rams were on fire that year with McVay and Gurley and Goff. And the Patriots defense just shut them out. They almost shut them out. I think they gave up only 3 points. So hard to argue against. Let's not forget Belichick in this whole scenario. And look at Belichick this year. Took a rookie quarterback with a shit team to the playoffs. So, keep everything in perspective. But at the end of the day, hard to argue against Brady being the GOAT. He's the most accomplished, and he's, won Super Bowls in multiple places. He played in the era of Big Ben. He played in the era of Peyton Manning, Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees. He played in the era of a lot of these. Eli Manning beat him twice. There's random things that happened. They had a 10-year stretch in New England where they did not win a Super Bowl. So he fought through a lot of stuff, and he had, stubborn Belichick, who never really drafted offensive players that well. It was mostly a defensive, oriented team, and he was the staple there in New England. So all that stuff you had, you had Deflategate, you had Spygate, you had all this stuff over the last 20 years. And there's that book that Seth Wickersham came out with, very detailed about all the stuff that went on in New England behind the scenes. But extremely impressive career. Can't knock him for much, And the year he got suspended for those 4 games, they ended up winning the Super Bowl that year against Atlanta. By the way, should not have won. He had no business winning that game, but he did. So anyway, I know that's a lot on Brady, but you don't usually get to talk about a guy leaving the game like this at the top of his game. Could be MVP this year. Definitely could have been. So just an very impressive career. And I am gonna, as soon as somebody big time like that leaves, you are gonna miss him a little bit. You just will. The league is changing. The AFC has all the young guns. Now in the NFC, if Rodgers stays, which I'll get to later about Chicago, but if Rodgers stays in Green Bay, it's pretty much them, the Cowboys, and the Rams. I don't know what's going to go on the Niners next year. I don't know what's going to happen at Dallas next year. I don't know. Arizona, are they going to be good again next year? The NFC is looking awfully weak now going into next year, and the AFC's got all the young gun quarterbacks. So a lot of stuff's going to unfold this summer. Speaking of the young gun quarterbacks, let's get to the big game of the weekend, other than the Rams and the 49ers, which was the Bengals and the Chiefs. I want to talk about that a little bit. And I will mention my guy Dodgers 11 said Rodgers has a $46 million cap hit this year, so that's a big deal when it comes down to what the Packers are going to do. I think he should leave. There's too much turmoil there. Take Devontae Adams with him, and the Packers become irrelevant again. But who knows? We'll see what happens with Rodgers. But anyway, yeah, so let's get to the Bengals and Chiefs. Joe Burrow has changed the culture in Cincinnati. This is a team that was god-awful. He got hurt last year, and now he's taken this team. It's just like another unlikely victory every week. It's just like, how does this guy keep doing it, right? You didn't think, oh, they're not going to beat Tennessee. There's no way. And they beat them. They're not going to beat Kansas City. There's no way. And they beat them. It's just like, I don't understand how Burrow is doing this, but he is. I think as far as I'm not sure what's going on with Mahomes and Kansas City. I think that something happened after that first half. They got very greedy at the end of that first half, if you remember, and they missed that throw to Tyreek Hill. They didn't take a shot in the end zone. They didn't have time to call a timeout, and they should have taken the points and gone up by 3 scores. Instead, all the momentum switched going into halftime over to Cincinnati. And Kansas City can't score all of a sudden in the second half. I didn't understand it. It was just like, where was the Patrick Mahomes that we've seen a lot this year that was starting to figure it out? And he was missing throws. His quarterback rating was terrible. He couldn't find, Tyreek Hill anymore and Kelsey. It just, you could argue they don't have enough weapons, but they got plenty of weapons. They got McCole Hardman. They got Pringle. They got Robinson. They got all the dudes the running backs. They got them all. I'm not exactly sure what happened to Patrick Mahomes. They're always in it, Kansas City, but lately he's kind of, I don't know. It's hard to go to 3 straight Super Bowls, no question there, but this was like a head scratcher for the first time. Usually it's not on Mahomes, right? Usually it's on the offensive line, or the Kansas City defense was awful. Kansas City D was holding it down. They were up 21-3. This game should have been on ice at halftime. This game was over. And all of a sudden, the Bengals just creep back in. It was amazing, man. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, and I don't know. And that defense for the Bengals held up. And let's be real. The Chiefs had 2 coin tosses go their way. They had the coin toss against Buffalo, where they get the ball first and score, game's over because of the rules. They get lucky with the coin toss this past weekend. And Mahomes still throws a pick. And look, what do you know? Cincinnati played defense when they had to. And Evan McPherson, the kicker, has been great this whole playoffs. And he kicked them to the Super Bowl. It's just like, I was kind of in shock at the end of that game, to be honest. Like, the matchup I know everybody really wanted was Rams-Chiefs. Those are the 2 high-powered offenses. Those are the 2, extremes of what the NFL is right now. Young, offensive-minded geniuses running the show. I know Andy Reid's older, but that's the matchup we all wanted, but we're getting Joe Cool instead. So it should be a fun atmosphere. It should be, Cincinnati has nothing to lose. They're way ahead of schedule, right? Way ahead of schedule. So exciting stuff for Burrow and Cincinnati. It's going to be great. So I think it'll be a fun atmosphere for them. But let's talk about the Rams. The Rams, the team that's been there and done that. After Stafford threw that early, ridiculously stupid INT, interception in the end zone, of course, as he usually does, with good reason, forcing it to Cooper Kupp in traffic, and he throws an interception. Like, that's just what Matthew Stafford does. So at the beginning of that game, I was like, uh-oh, we haven't seen him in a while. Is this the Detroit Stafford? Is this what we're getting here? But no, he corrected it, stayed the course, and methodically the Rams just kind of beat them down. But San Francisco had the lead in this game, right? This San Francisco defense was playing lights out. The running game was non-existent for the Rams. This was a good opportunity for Jimmy G to really make it tough on the Niners to say, you know what, he is our guy. But the truth came out. You cannot hide a below average quarterback the deeper you get into the playoffs, right? You cannot hide somebody. There's an old saying and I just thought of this the other day, and it's really resonated with me from my baseball career. One of my coaches in college used to say, I can hide. I don't like to use this word very much, but he used to say, I can hide a coward in left field. It's not going to kill us, but I can't hide a coward on the mound. Meaning, you have got to have mental toughness, and you got to have the skill level and the talent to take over a game as a pitcher. And the equivalent of a pitcher would be a quarterback. The game starts and stops with you. The ball's in your hand to start every single play. So you cannot hide Jimmy G when you get deeper into the playoffs and you start playing veteran, legit quarterbacks. I know he escaped in Green Bay, but let's be real. In this game, a lot of the yards that he was throwing came on screen passes, especially one, I think it was a 44-yard screen pass touchdown to Debo. You can't hide Jimmy G the deeper you get into the playoffs. So this was, and he threw that terrible flip interception at the end of the first, at the end of that fourth quarter that really, sealed the deal. To me, that play was the nail in the coffin for Jimmy G with the 49ers. I think they can say, look, thank you for your service. You took us farther than anyone thought you'd take us. So it was way beyond what anyone thought your talent is showing, right? Let's be real. Jimmy G's not in the top 15 quarterbacks in the league. You're probably going to get down to 20 before you mention his name. I know his record is really good, but don't kid yourselves, okay? He's like 9-3 when he doesn't throw it, 9-2 when he doesn't throw a touchdown. Like, that's running game, that's scheme, that's defense. That's just him managing the game. Jimmy G is not a top-level quarterback, if we're being honest with ourselves, okay? So this was, if so facto, probably the last comfortable play with the Niners for Jimmy G. I know they love him in the locker room. He seems like a great guy, but that he's not the future, and I don't think he's the present either. You can't build a team around a guy that can barely throw it down the field. He made a couple nice throws down the middle, but the middle was open for them in the last two games. It just seemed like this was going to be it for Jimmy G, and it probably will be. But he had a great run. He probably can start somewhere else that needs a quarterback. I don't think he's a Super Bowl team away from the type of quarterback he is, but he probably can. He probably has earned the right to start somewhere. Not sure where, but somewhere. I mean, can he be better than Carson Wentz? Probably. He could start in Indianapolis right now and just be okay. So those are landing spot for Jimmy G. But as far as the Rams go, I mean, man, this is Odell Beckham, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey over the last couple of years. This is why they made the trade for Matthew Stafford. They felt like Jared Goff has taken this team as far as he can go. He's extremely limited with the playbook. Everything has to be perfect. Matthew Stafford has a little bit of Mahomes in him where he can just make it happen off script. And he's just a better thrower. He's just a better quarterback. He just really is. And, Matthew Stafford had never won a playoff game before he got to LA. Well, now he's won 3 playoff games in a row. So sometimes it's just your situation, right? When you're around good players and good coaches, you're going to do better. And Matthew Stafford, happy for him. Sorry, Detroit. Matthew Stafford showing you why he is the real deal. So happy for Stafford. And, for the Rams to get a home Super Bowl, very impressive. And, that's why they're favored in this game. I'm not sure about my pick yet. I'll get to that maybe next week. My early thoughts are the Rams are going to win, but Cincinnati, God, they just don't go away, and they may cover. I think it's 4.5 points right now. So they may cover that 4.5 points. I do think the Rams will win in a close game. I think it comes down to a field goal. So I like the Rams to win the Super Bowl. Just right now, early thoughts. A couple quick ones. USC gets the big transfer quarterback from Oklahoma, Caleb Williams. Lincoln Riley, the coach, is now slowly building this roster. If all goes well for USC, you got to think the Pac-12 at minimum next year, right? Oregon's going through a coaching change. They're getting the Georgia defensive coordinator. UCLA is weak. Stanford's down. Washington's been down. Arizona State is a fraud. U of A sucks. The Pac-12 is pretty damn weak. Utah's really the only team that's going to be in the way next year. Oregon will be good, but Oregon and Utah, it's pretty much it, right? Nobody else is really in the way. So if all goes well for SC, you're going to win the Pac-12, and you hope because of your name and your wins, USC could possibly get a New Year's Six bowl, one of those top 6 bowl games. They're not ready for a national championship yet, but I believe maybe in 2 or 3 years they'll be able to build that roster. But I think best case scenario for USC, win the conference next year and get to a New Year's Day bowl. Sugar Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, something like that. Want to spend a minute on the Bears' new GM, Ryan Poles, and he and the coach, Eberflus, both. It was weird. Their press conference was weird. Bear down, U of A. I went there, Grandizer. I went there for 2 years, so bear down for a little bit. They didn't help me in my baseball career, but I did go there for 2 years, so it was a fun school. So as far as the Chicago Bears' new GM, Ryan Poles, is concerned, he and the new head coach read scripts. It was just too, I don't know, it was robotic and kind of preachy a little bit. But Poles is saying now that Chicago is going to take back the NFC North right away, huh? Okay. Yeah, I don't think so. When I think about that. So you still have Minnesota, who's interviewing Jim Harbaugh for a potential head coaching position. Even if they don't get Harbaugh, Minnesota is a much better team than Chicago is. A much better team. So I think, if Rodgers stays, obviously he owns the Bears. He said it to the Bears fans when he scored a touchdown. I still own you. And he does. So I don't think the Bears are going anywhere that fast. I think Justin Fields, you would think, year 2, new coach, will get better. But I don't know what to make of this Bears team. There's no signs of them being this juggernaut that we're all missing all of a sudden. Where's all this coming from? Where all of a sudden the Bears are the class of the NFC North? No, you're not. You're probably the worst team in the NFC North, honestly. The Lions play a lot harder, and they might even be better next year. So you're looking at a Bears team that still might be the worst team in the conference. So anyway, we'll see what happens there. But I think it's a little premature for the new coach and GM to spit out all this BS about how great they are. Let's show us, and then we'll believe it when we see it. The Flow Show says, with college baseball upcoming, do you think that Oklahoma or Texas will be big threats to the current SEC powerhouses? Good question. I don't know about their rosters and all that stuff. Traditionally, the SEC has been the class of college baseball. However, the Pac-12 has won a lot of championships in college baseball. So random fact there. But yes, usually Texas has a great baseball program. Usually they used to. I got to go look. So don't quote me on that. I don't know yet, and we'll see how it all shakes out this year. But yeah, they're going to be great. Those two programs, those are big powerhouse football schools, and they usually have good baseball programs. So I think those two schools will be contenders in the SEC. Football is a different story, but baseball, yes, I would say so. What do you think? Give me your thoughts on that. Last thing I was going to get to is Josh McDaniels. Most of you know him. He's was the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. He was a former Bill Belichick assistant, and he is going to be the new coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Is he ready for this opportunity is the question, right? He was exposed to head coaching when he went to Denver first, and he said, and I quote, "I knew football, but I didn't know people," end of quote. So he knows the game. He knows X's and O's, but it's one thing to be an offensive coordinator and be a genius play caller and just be so robotic in your play sheet. But you need to manage men, manage people. So you need to be able to direct traffic, know what makes guys tick, know on both sides of the ball about time. You got to call timeouts. You got to know what personnel groupings are in there. And there's a lot more responsibility for a head coach. And that's why a lot of guys fail that are coordinators that are not ready to take on the responsibility of head coach. You do a lot more delegating. You have a lot of coaches underneath you. It's not just calling plays. So I think McDaniels is much better suited this time around. He's in his mid-40s now. Belichick's coaching tree has not been that successful. You want to say Brian Flores has been, he's been pretty good with a below average. I'm not a Tua guy. I'm not a Tua believer. So I don't know about Tua in Miami. However, they won 8 of the last 9 games down there, whether the owner liked it or not, as we found out today with the lawsuit with Brian Flores, which we'll get into more coming up soon. But Derek Carr wanted and other guys wanted Rich Bisaccia to come back, but Mark Davis knew he needed to make a big-time splash hire moving forward. This is Las Vegas now, right? This isn't Oakland. This is Vegas. It's splash time. You got the Rams. You got, all these other coaches and other places making big splash hires. You got to make a move. And, it's hard to argue against Josh McDaniels, who's got the resume. Now, a lot of the time he was with Brady, and he did do a good job with Mac Jones for the most part, but Belichick's coaching tree has not been very successful. It's not like Andy Reid's. So, or Sean McVay's all of a sudden. Zach Taylor, hello, he's in the Super Bowl with Cincinnati. So, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say what's going to happen with Josh McDaniels there, but I believe it's a good fit. The key is what do they do with Derek Carr moving forward? What are they going to do with all the other offensive pieces? Is there enough there on defense too? So the Raiders have a lot of work to do, but as chaotic as it was last year, the Raiders need some stability in that locker room. And the first step is Josh McDaniels. So hopefully he's not too much Belichick. He's just a little bit of Belichick. So anyways, so yeah, that's what I got for you tonight. Let me answer the flow show here. I think Texas and Oklahoma should be big threats, more so Texas. Totally agree. Yeah, that's what I think as well. I think that's well said. Texas is more of a baseball program, more notable. Oklahoma's had some players come through there, but I think Texas obviously is a better program. But yeah, that is my show for this week as we hit the 8 o'clock hour. Really appreciate you all joining in with me tonight. As always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast. Check out the actual podcast every Thursday morning, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, right here on this channel. Subscribe, rate, review. Please share it if you could. Pass it on to a friend. Would love for you guys to subscribe, hit the like button, drop a comment, a review on the podcast pages, whether it's Apple or whether it's here. I'd love for you guys to spread the word about the Too Tall Sports Podcast. Like I mentioned, you can follow me on social media at Too Tall Sports Podcast. Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. TikTok, it's at Too Tall Sports Podcast. Just follow me wherever you can. But I really appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Great show as always. Great feedback. Thank you all. Grandizer, The Flow Show, Braden. Appreciate all you guys joining in. Dodgers 11, thank you very much. So I will see you guys next week for another great show. As always, come join me 7:30 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube Live and Colorcast, the app. So check me out there, Too Tall Sports Podcast. I'll talk to you all soon. Have a good night.